They didn't give away trade secrets, people. But why a journalist was put on this text chain is beyond understanding. Ridiculous. Dopey. Just dumb. But no one's getting fired. We now know that. This from Asylum is there it is. It's the Psycho. It's actually a rather good Connecticut, even though it looks a little messed up right there. I'm going to enjoy this. Of course, our friends at Flederman Von Riest. My name is Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Let's go do some radio, shall we?
Into hostile airspace, correct?
Yes.
And therefore, the time period during which enemy air defenses could target U.S. air crews flying in enemy airspace, correct?
I don't know that.
You do know that. Let me ask this question, General Hawk. You lead America's signals intelligence collection. Would the private deliberation of foreign senior officials about the wisdom and timing of potential military action be a collection priority for you and the U.S. intelligence community?
Senator, it's our job to do indications and warning for both the plans and intentions of adversary leaders and for military commanders.
And would not information about the timing of airstrikes allow a military to pre-position or cue air defense systems to shoot down enemy aircraft?
That's Senator John Ossoff right there, speaking to John Ratcliffe, who is CIA, and Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, Kash Patel, who heads up the FBI. And all of this is because, for whatever reason, a journalist by the name of Jeffrey Goldberg, who shouldn't be trusted as far as you could throw the guy, was put into this chat that took place on Signal, right, which is an app, regarding the attack on the Houthis. Now, I'll be the first guy to say I don't know how that happens. And my argument is much more simplistic, I think, than others. Why is Jeffrey Goldberg in your phone? Why in the world is Jeffrey Goldberg in your phone? We're talking about the guy who runs the Atlantic, which of course cannot be trusted. We're talking about the same Jeffrey Goldberg here, who had hired Kevin Williamson from National Review, and then his staff got all sorts of uppity about, oh, you can't have him. Oh, you can't have that kind of person working here. And therefore, he got fired. No, I'm not listening to Jeffrey Goldberg. But he's on this text chain and this back and forth about the attack on the Houthi rebels. Why in the world would he be on this? Now, maybe the first question some people are asking is, why is it, or how is it possible that you could even have these officials, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, the CIA Director, Ratcliffe, Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the Vice President, J.D. Vance? How could they be on something on Signal? How is this possible? Well, as Ratcliffe explains, Signal got loaded into his computer basically day one.
So that we're clear, one of the first things that happened when I was confirmed as CIA director was Signal was loaded onto my computer at the CIA, as it is for most CIA officers. One of the things that I was briefed on very early, Senator, was by the CIA records management folks about the use of Signal as a permissible work use. It is. That is a practice that preceded the current administration to the Biden administration.
So let's make sure that we're all on the same page here. We're not in the business of excusing maybe what got discussed, but we can now at least put to bed the very idea that the app utilized was allowed. The CIA installed it on his computer, but yet somehow it wasn't allowed. That'd be a hard one to believe. To the actual discussion itself, what is it that got said? Well, first thing we know is that this chat actually took place, and a whole bunch of things got discussed, including some concerns from the Vice President. Noah Rothman of National Review will be with us a little bit later to discuss what those are, and this greater understanding that we all need to take of where we are in world politics when we look at problems occurring, in this case, with the Houthi rebels, with Yemen, with the Red Sea, and passage to the Suez Canal, and how it does affect us, even if the majority of trade isn't coming to the United States. This was a real conversation. The White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, was on this messaging group. Stephen Miller, an advisor to Trump on this, along with the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent. Now, were they in specific conversations or more general conversations? I'll leave that to others. Why was Jeffrey Goldberg, this reporter, added? A worthwhile question that has no good answer, right? There's no good reason or rationale. One of the questions is this disqualifying? Does someone have to be fired? I had already put out into the world that absolutely I'm fine with firing somebody. Oh, I don't suffer fools easily. This is some nonsense right here. This is absolute nonsense what took place right here. President Trump has already been clear. This is not going to result in a firing. President Trump says National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has learned a lesson after the leak. Mike Waltz has learned a lesson, and he's a good man, says President Trump. The only glitch in 2 months, and it turned out not to be a serious one. Well, yeah. You got lucky there. I mean, you got very, very lucky there. Because when Trump was asked about this just last night, he had no idea what anybody was even talking about.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
with the Houthis.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
So he didn't know anything about it. And now a clear support of Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor. Let us discuss a couple of things here. And this has to do with how one operates in today's world. I find myself in disagreement with some of my conservative friends who say this is no big deal. No one has to get fired. Why? Because there are new rules. The new rules are Joe Biden wasn't president for the last 2 years. No Democrat said boo. No one's getting fired. That's all there is to it. Joe Biden killed 13 service members in the disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, and no one got fired. Not a general, not a corporal, not a captain, no one in the cabinet. Lloyd Austin went AWOL, the Secretary of Defense under Biden. No one lost their job. Why should anyone lose their job here? My argument is that I wanted those people to lose their jobs, and I believe in holding the standard all the way through. The truth is that my conservative colleagues are not wrong in saying there are new rules. There's a new way to do these things. The left doesn't get to decide. They don't get to hold some standard when they don't uphold a standard. I believe in that. But you can't be this dumb and keep your job. And that Mike Waltz gets to keep his job. Well, Trump's the president. I get to move on. I have to move on. I don't have a choice. Now, some people are blaming Hegseth and demanding that Hegseth resign. But Hegseth is not the one who invited Jeffrey Goldberg into this chain, and Hegseth doesn't have to resign. It's so clear and so obvious to be trying to take advantage of an opportunity. I don't plan on giving the left to that at all. Now, when people remark that Trump is going to keep this guy on, and they'll say things like loving Trump is too much, or they'll say this is what happens when you only appoint loyals. Everybody who worked for Joe Biden was a loyalist. What are we beginning to talk about here? Are we going to pretend that didn't happen? Joe Biden was a walking fool. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know who he was talking to. He talked to people who weren't there. He needed to be guided by the Easter Bunny. All these things happened, and everybody protected him. What do we call these people? Great patriots? Bull crap. These were loyalists. That's where they are. You don't think that the people Trump puts in these positions, he's put in there to be able to move the policies he wants moved? Of course, standard operating procedure. I want to get rid of people who are dopey, who fail the basic tests. You know where the real basic test here, though, is? I already said it twice, I believe. Who the hell has Jeffrey Goldberg in their phone? Why? It's an interesting concept from Laughing Wolf about wanting to leak the information. And sometimes, you can't put it out via the traditional channel, so you put it out as a leak here and a leak there, and then the information gets out, and that's what you want done. Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic is your guy? That's weird as can be. This is why when I think it's Sean Davis of The Federalist making this point. If you tell me that it's Pete Hegseth has to go. Hegseth didn't invite Goldberg. Waltz did. That's why Trump's defending Waltz right now and saying, hey, just a glitch. He's going to learn from this. He's a decent guy. Hegseth didn't do anything wrong. But the left, always overplaying their hand, sees an opportunity to quite literally do anything. Dear Lord, there was I'll share it with you if you haven't heard it already, where a senator from Oregon, Ron Wyden, is questioning Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, on whether or not the president of the United States can speak to somebody about classified information. Do they have a clearance? Well, if the president decides to talk to them, they've got a clearance. Oh, no, you need some outside body giving the clearance to the person, not the president. Do you know how deluded, ridiculous you have to be? Deluded, ridiculous. So there's this whole hearing going on. You already had Gabbard and Ratcliffe scheduled to appear. Now it's all to talk about this. And you have Tom Cotton speaking.
Forward to working with each of you to strengthen America's intelligence edge and refocus our intelligence community on its core mission, stealing secrets. The American people deserve nothing less. We've assembled an impressive team to get this done, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Now I recognize the Vice Chairman for opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Mr.
We're not going to listen to his opening remarks right there. We're just too busy, and we love ourselves just a wee bit too much. This story is a real story in that you're like, what happened? How did this information get out? Why did this information get out? And you realize that it was indeed, without question, a mistake. I'm not going to say no, and I wouldn't let anybody try and sneak past like it's no big deal. Not a big deal at all. It is. It matters. And we should say so. The people who were unwilling to look at themselves, I can't listen to them look at others. The people screaming. Eric Swalwell is screaming that someone needs to be fired. Eric Swalwell was totally sleeping with a Chinese spy, except I doubt he was, because he didn't have what it takes to make that happen. You know, she was paid to do that, and he couldn't land. He couldn't seal the deal. No. She may love her communist China, but not that much. That's my take on Eric Swalwell. You're with a Chinese spy, and now you're going to lecture? No. That's just not the way it's going to go. So we're onward and upward from here. I did say I want to see someone fired because someone would have been fired. Just as a lesson to everybody else. President Trump, I guess he's a nicer guy than me. Who knew? I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. There it is. Guys, good to see you. What's going on? Tony Katz Today. I'm just going through audio. This from Tulsi Gabbard. Did you hear this?
Abilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
The Israelis would like to disagree. Okay, Tulsi Gabbard. We're going to argue that they're not working towards a nuclear weapon. All right. If that's what you want to say, I have a hard time with that. I think the Israelis will disagree with that. We will, that is going to be a show. Good gosh. Let me grab that for later. In the meantime, a bunch of more to get to. The big deal regarding the Hyundai plant, the billions of dollars, and speed cameras in California. I've got that as well. So yeah, a bunch to get to. Bunch going on. Oh, the fake Noose. I've got the update on what took place right near me in Indiana. With the guy who took the pro-Israel sign out of the yard. Very weird. People are dopey. They really are. Let me see if I've got this story right here. Hold on a second. There we go. Got it. Good. Let me see what you guys got going on. Hold on. Jordan's angry. All right. I've been told a lot of things. My eyes are shifty and beady. Okay, Jordan, this was fun. We're not going to be listening to you anymore. We know that Waltz is the guy who invited Goldberg into the conversation. At least that's how it's being reported. So to say that this is the fault of Hegseth is, of course, wrong. I'd appreciate it if you just follow along, Jordan. But shifty and beady, these peepers? There is a level of beyond hateful out there that is hard to describe and harder to fathom. It's nuts. Nuts. These people are ridiculous. Including you, Jordan. Just do you think that is going to in any way like move me or connect anything? We just ignore you now. And you deserve to be ignored. Bye, Felicia. Coming back to the radio show.
I'm not going down like that. We're not going down like that. The people who voted for me deserve to have their voices heard and communities prioritized. I'm seeking the truth right now, just as much as you all are. But I will not be bullied, and I will not be disparaged, and I will not be threatened out of this office.
Okay, Mayor Tao. I must admit, I don't know much about the mayor of Oakland, but she sounds angry. Very, very, very upset. What has got her bothered? Do we know the story of the mayor of Oakland? She's been in federal court, a hearing regarding bribery and fraud. And now she's talking about the radical right-wing forces trying to bring her downfall. Hey, producer Landon, finger on the dump button, okay? Good.
There are a lot of radical right-wing forces who know they will never win an election in Oakland Fair and Square. They know their extreme views are at odds with our Oakland values, but they have built the rules to protect and preserve their power and maintain dominance over the rest of us. We are a threat to that order. I know that. The people who supports me know that. You see, this was never going to be an easy fight. But I tell you, it's most definitely a fight worth winning.
So you're charged with corruption. These charges not only involve you, Mayor, but your, as the Washington Times describes it, lover, and it's right-wing forces that have brought you down. Sure. Hey, you know, those right-wing forces, they're tricky. They can just reach up and grab you. Let's talk about your open values, by the way. California, San Francisco, not too far from Oakland, now the first city to activate a network of 33 fixed speed cameras, and the cost of the fines dependent upon the driver's ability to pay. Low income drivers get a 50% discount on any penalty. So if you have money, how they determine money, and you're speeding or you go through a red light, you pay a fine. But if you're speeding or go through a red light and you don't have money, you pay half. So if you are single, it's $30,120. You pay half. If you have a family of 6, $83,920 a year. So the crime is the crime, but the fine is based on how much you make. And that is the open values right now existent in California. Got it.
F these people. F these people. F these people. F these people.
Sorry, I was on a loop there in my head, and I figured you had to hear it as well. I didn't know about Mayor Tao's problems, but now I'm all curious about her possible bribery. We'll keep up with it. This is Tony Katz Today. silly little cough won't go away. Guys, how are you? Tony Katz today. This from Flederman von Riest. That is the Hanoverian in cornflower blue. That is a limited edition color. You can get yours at Von Riest, Rieste, vonriest.com. Use promo code CATZ, K-A-T-Z, and you can get your discount, and you should, because it's a beaut. It's a beaut and a peach, except it's not in peach. It's in cornflower blue. There it is. Look at that. Look it. And you're like, wait, is that purple? No, it's cornflower blue. You're like, wait a second, is that powder blue? Nope, it's cornflower blue. What's cornflower blue? No one can actually be told what cornflower blue is. You have to experience it to understand. That's right. These watches are the Matrix. So check it out. Go to Von Riest, Rieste, vonriest.com. Use promo code CATZ, K-A-T-Z. Get your discount. Do that right now. Let me see what I got going on. Oh, I guess the trolls have stopped trolling. All right. Don't worry, they'll be back. Oh, it's been a day. It has been a day of just that kind of nonsense. Coming back to the show here. What do I have? Oh, that's right. It's why we should be out of the United Nations. Got some tariff talk. Dr. Matt will be with us a little bit later. And of course, you have, as always, the border, the biggest story in America. Let me see if I've got this right here. There we go. Boom. All right, we're coming back to the show. Glad you guys are here. Thank you so much. Let's go do this thing. There, of course, are people who think it's wrong to arrest Mahmoud Khalil, and it's certainly wrong to deport him. He was just engaging his free speech rights, and he is a lawful permanent resident. How dare you not give him due process? Of course, they lie about the idea of the rights. This is not a citizen. There are rules that have to be followed. There's a real issue with people following the rules. There's a real issue that people have with the difference between the citizen and the non-citizen. And they don't believe that the non-citizen should be treated any differently. Well, I don't know why anybody is surprised by this. This is the same reason they believe in an open border. If we go back just a few years ago to when Representative Ocasio-Cortez was opposed to legislation that would have put more beds at the border for people who are crossing the border, you'd be like, why in the world is Representative Ocasio-Cortez opposed to beds? Well, the answer is she's opposed to more beds at the border because why in the world should anybody be stopped at the border? When you believe in an open border, no one should be stopped. No one should have to prove themselves. No one should have to wait. You just go right in. If that's not what she believes, what does she believe? Because she doesn't believe in a strong border. She used to go to the border and cry because children were kept in cages. And when Biden did the same thing, she never went to the border. Only when Trump was president at the first term did she go to the border. Maybe she'll go now because she's an opportunist. She doesn't actually care about the people crossing the border, especially the children. And said in its most proper way, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez doesn't care about black and brown children. She doesn't care what happens to them. She doesn't care if they get sex trafficked. She doesn't care if they're utilized as mules. She doesn't care if they're abandoned in the Darien Gap or anywhere else to die. She does not care. If she had cared, she would have been interested in policy, but she was only interested in photo ops by fences that were nowhere near the border. So, facts are facts are facts are facts. She didn't want beds because she didn't believe in a border to begin with. And if she can utilize the border just to her advantage to not have a border, she would. These progressives are what they are, which is weird because if you then have people coming into the country and you have no border and you're a progressive, which is to say you're a communist, man, those people are going to have a problem. Except, of course, when you're a communist nation, no one tries to get in. Amazing how that. No one is sneaking into Russia. All right, maybe the North Koreans. But you know what? To a North Korean, Russia's a dream come true. This is not the story that I bring to you. The story I bring to you is the story of Mahmoud Khalil. This lawful permanent resident, clearly on the side of Hamas, working to engage the protests at Columbia and keeping students from being able to cross the campus peacefully, engaged in acts of intimidation. This is not someone who gets to stay in the United States because they're a lawful permanent resident. That's not how this works. They have to live by a certain set of rules. And when they don't, they have to go. Everybody who's wearing a keffiyeh and speaking at a college campus who is not a citizen has to go. Because wearing a keffiyeh is to side with Hamas. We can say otherwise, but of course we'd be lying. It is siding with what we decided in the United States was a terrorist organization. And you don't get to stay in the United States when you side with terrorists. You have to leave. Now, any citizen wearing a keffiyeh is playing dress up, knowing that they never once will have to live with any of that. They pretend to have solidarity with a terrorist organization. Man, there are some weird fetishes out there, right? And I'm saying you do you, boo. I am not here to judge. Get yourself a safe word and have a good time. Mine, potato latke. But I'm telling you that wearing the keffiyeh, that is not just a fetish. That is siding with aiding and supporting a terrorist organization. And if you're a non-citizen, you go. And if you're a citizen, you're a despicable low person engaged in playing dress up, because if you went to Gaza and lived under the rule of Hamas, you would be killed or raped or both. And they all know it. All of these privileged, elite, nonsense, garbage Columbia students, they all know it. At NYU, at USC, and everywhere else. Oh, they don't go. They don't go to Gaza. They just pretend Gaza. That's what they do. They don't send their money to Gaza. No. That's their money that daddy earned. No, they pretend that they're dealing with such hardship. Well, we should not pretend that there are not elements that we have provided funding to that create us a problem. We provide funding to the United Nations, and the United Nations is engaged in a problem. It is that the United Nations supports despots, just like Jimmy Carter did. The United Nations always supports the wrong guy. The United Nations always supports the wrong crowd. Always, 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 always. In this case, they've got the United Nations Relief Works Agency. I'll pronounce it right one of these days. I try, sometimes I don't really care if I get my terrorist organizations and terrorist supporting organizations accurate. And if you say to me, you can't say that about the UN, I just did. And I'll say it again and again. The United Nations Relief Works Agency was helpful to Hamas in planning October 7th, 2023, which is to say they planned it. The murder of Israelis, the murder of Jews, the kidnapping of Americans and Thai nationals and others, the rape, the burning alive of babies, they did this. And people forget that it was certainly Hamas in that first wave, but it was the Palestinians in that second wave. That's just the data, baby. That's what happened. The UN aided and abetted the planning of this attack. And the UN has been funding Hamas through various channels with dollars or foodstuffs or other things through this United Nations Relief Works Agency for Palestinian refugees. Massive wealth redistribution that's been going on for years. Well, it turns out that this Columbia protester, Mahmoud Khalil, had ties to this agency and just did not disclose them, hid his ties to the United Nations Relief Works Agency. He can't be deported fast enough, but he's a lawful permanent resident. Don't give a damn. Not a citizen. He goes. Now, for aiding and abetting a terrorist organization, I don't care if you put him on a trial and put his life on the line. But maybe deportation's just easier. He has to go. And the people who support him have to be noted as terrorist sympathizers. It's what they are. We're not having a conversation about free speech here. This was never a conversation about free speech. This was about the acts. He was instrumental in organizing not the protests, but the physical acts that intimidated Jewish students, taking over buildings, threatening, intimidating. This is what he was doing, preventing students from being able to cross the campus, keeping Jewish students locked out of areas of campus. This was him. This is what he did. And no lawful status gives you that right. You know, as a citizen, you don't even have that right. Can't stop people from moving. Now, I have an argument that I would make to you. That the real problem is that you didn't take 5,000 Jews and just start walking through that campus ready for a fight. And you say to me, Tony, but that's an act of violence. They're stopping you from walking. They're trying to intimidate you. You need 5,000 people just to walk through that crowd and make them fear you. I mean, if you can't respect me, you should certainly be afraid of me. Shouldn't that be the answer? Let me say it a different way in case somehow that's seen as too violent for some people. You're supposed to stand up to bullies. This is what we hear. You stand up to bullies. Time and time and time again, you got to stand up to the bully. Why are we not standing up to the bully? We should be standing up to the bully. It's the only thing that makes sense. But you now know that this guy is a lowlife. All his friends are lowlives. His wife, I'm willing to bet cash money, low life, every connection, low. We have to ask ourselves why we fund the United Nations. Why do we fund the UN? Why do we support what it is that they're doing with our money, which is helping terrorists? We have to end this. Not just the money to the United Nations Relief Works Agency. No, we have to end our support of the UN. It doesn't work. I don't mind creating a new organization. I don't mind trying again. But we can't be a part of this. We can't be part of an organization that actually thinks that Libya is all about human rights and Israel is the occupying force. You're just a child if you think those things. You're unserious. Note, I am not discussing a perfection of any nation. Certainly not Israel. Oh, they got issues. But this is about not only existence, but support for terrorism. And we should not be supporting terrorism. So we should end our time in the United Nations, and we should grab some other countries, and we should start fresh and keep some people out, because they're just not worthy of belonging. Cut off the money. Cut off the gravy train. They don't deserve it. So we shouldn't give it to them. We got to stop. And we got to stop sooner rather than later. I'm Tony Katz, and this right here, this is Tony Katz Today. So let's do that and that. Perfect. Welcome back. Okay, you're not crazy. I am playing with the camera, and so now everything looks like it's at an angle, right? I'm still straight, but everything else is like if I did this, like this would make it. Now that would look right? But this is still. It's this weird thing where I just cannot make the determination of like for some reason, like when I sit, I am not sitting. See this? Like Plum, I sit like this. Why do I sit like this? I sit like this because my main monitor is over here. And that's too much of a lean, but that's more comfortable. So now does that mean I need to move the camera over? If I move the camera over, it messes up the whole background. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out where this is. And what I've got right now is just a significant hot mess. What I have right now is just despicable. So you're not crazy. You are not crazy, as opposed to Representative Jasmine Crockett, who is, yeah.
And then y'all want to come at us and act like people of color are the problem or that women are the problem? Like, baby, you probably need a good black woman in the room who can check you and tell you that, first of all, you shouldn't be doing this shit on Signal or anything else.
Member of Congress, Jasmine Crockett. Later, I'll get into a little Jasmine Crockett Masterpiece Theater. She's a treat. Good Lord. This is, I don't know. Does this tough guy routine play with anybody? Anyone, anywhere? No? Yes? She's so ridiculous. So just absolutely ridiculous. All right, we will get back to what is that? I don't know what that is, but okay. All right, let's get to it. Back to the show. Appreciate you guys being here.
Great to have you with us. Today, we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year.
Yeah, president is pleased. The president is very happy to see this. See, my tariffs work. I don't know if the tariffs work. Later, I'll share with you a conversation with Dr. Matt Will, economist at the University of Indianapolis. We have a lot to get through before we can get to a good time. And as I've argued, I think this needs to be discussed. There's things are not going to be great for a while. They weren't great under Biden. They're not great now. It's going to take a while before they are. Trump's argument is look at the tariffs and look at how it has brought business to the U.S., $5.8 billion steel plant, a $20 billion investment from Hyundai overall. This is terrific. This is wonderful. This is great. This is the best. I don't know if this is the way everyone's going to take it. Meanwhile, you've got tariffs Except you no longer have these blanket tariffs, you have the reciprocal tariffs. And even in that case, Trump is a little now picking and choosing before this April 2nd deadline. And that has got some nations very, very happy. You've got some people like India working overtime to reduce some tariffs on American goods, so America will reduce tariffs on their goods. And they're saying, well, we got as far as we could. We did it. We got as good of a deal as we could. Now the deal changed. We're still going to make some money. But Trump is discussing exempting nations from reciprocal tariffs. I'm embarrassed to charge them what they've charged us. I don't know why you would be embarrassed, sir. If we're getting abused, let's solve that problem. Because tariffs, that's the most beautiful word in the world. Your words, not mine, sir. I never thought so, but you did. So now what's happening? What is actually taking place? Reality that tariffs are taxes and it's going to be a problem, especially when you can't lower interest rates. See, I think the country would be with him. And we're being abused by this nation, that nation, the other nation, your mother's nation, and we got to do something about it. No, I could see how people could agree with that. In this case, they don't necessarily know what they're agreeing with because the tariff, yes and no and maybe and on this and not that. No, on that, but not this. It's just been a lot to absorb. And in the end, it's never been explained. How do things get better? And I have argued that he should have done this a while ago. Could be argued that you shouldn't have said, we're gonna, here's why we're doing these things. And it's gonna be tough for a little while. Because if you'd done it a month ago, well, it's been a month. Why aren't things better? Why hasn't Trump made things better? All of that. It's gonna be a rough year. That's my take as we are now well ensconced in March. Yeah, it's the end of March. It's gonna be a rough year. Hold on. This is Tony Katz today. Guys, we're going to take the quick break and then we're going to come back to it. So the radio show is in break now. So we are in break as well. The chat remains open. I hope you will be there. And fantastic sponsors. Laser PMC, Precision Marksmanship Club. They're very cool people. So the people at Laser PMC have this, have a system. And what the system is you want to learn how to utilize a firearm. Well, they have got firearms that are laser equipped and they can set up all sorts of scenarios for you. And so you are looking at the screen and dealing with issues, dealing with live action stuff and getting good at being able to recognize when to make your move and when to not make your move. That comes from practice. Laser PMC, there they are. Laser Precision Marksmanship Club. You should check them out, laserpmc.com. Appreciate their sponsorship and being a part of not only the show, but my live event that's taking place in Kokomo, Trump and American Reset in 3 Bourbons. Tickets.tonykatz.com. Tickets.tonykatz.com. We're looking at Trump's first 100 days, the highs, the lows, the insane media reaction, and I've got it all paired with bourbon and barbecue from Big Hoppa's Barbecue, one of the top 100 barbecue places in America, according to Yelp. And I've got cigars. I got it all, boo-boo. I got it all. Tickets.tonykatz.com. You should be there. Guys, we take a short break. Much more to get to. Keep it right here. All right, I think I got it figured out. Now this goes back. See, I still have to raise this. See, look, wait. See how they're different? I can't believe I did that. I mean, like, that is an amateur level of miss. And it's that is enough. That is enough to keep me up at night. Oh, drives me crazy. Guys, welcome to the show. Tony Katz. Good to be with you, Tony Katz, today. An absolute pleasure. Happy to see the comments. Happy to see you guys in here. And yes, Bonnie, accurate about the tariffs in the first term. But second term might be different. And that's an argument that Dr. Matt Will, economist, is making. I will bring that to you coming up. Let us talk about the border. Let us discuss some of the madness now being discussed. And of course, I'll keep an eye on anything that is late breaking. And there we go. Is that better? Am I even? No? Yeah? Nothing has changed about the border being the biggest story in America. Nothing has changed about how important this subject is. Nothing has changed about the political ideologies that lead people to being opposed to a strong border. The New York Post reporting that Massachusetts released illegal immigrants accused of raping kids. Massachusetts dumping several illegal migrants accused of raping kids back into the community, refusing to hold them for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. How at that moment is the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, or anybody else who may be connected with this, not arrested and frog marched right in front of the world and brought into a courtroom for acting in a way that is detrimental to the future of America? Why would anybody want to do it? Where is the win here? So you've got these policies, these sanctuary state, sanctuary city kind of policies that move people to say, we don't work with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We don't help you. Somehow America upholding the laws and values of America is a bad thing. And we should be clear, the value is saying come in legally. There is no value to illegal immigration. There is no value to the statement that no person is illegal. That is a valueless statement made by small people with narrow thought processes. The real argument is whether or not they respect us enough to follow the law to be here. Which then, of course, brings us to, why would you be with somebody who doesn't respect you? You know who told you that? Your dad. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. What are you doing? 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. That's the number. Ladies, are you telling me that your dad never told you? Don't be with somebody who disrespects you. Don't be with somebody who doesn't have respect for you. That didn't happen. That happened all the time. You know you had that talk. You know you had that conversation. I'll wait. Admit it. Admit it. Of course it happened. My wife has it with my kids all the time. I didn't know this about her, but like... I'm going to use the term fear. And she's not really a woman afraid of things. Her biggest fear is that her kids will end up with partners, spouses, who aren't good to them. Who, She sees what goes on in relationships and with younger generations. She's like, they're awful. And specifically how girls treat guys. Like, this is awful. What is this? And so she's constant on the subject. And it's interesting because, you know, this idea that people don't change. Oh, yes, they do. And sometimes it's awesome. And this is like watching this happen around her. She's different on the subject. I love it. It's important conversations. But you know as well as I do, ladies, you've had this conversation. If not if dad didn't have this conversation, mom had this conversation. Why should the country want people who don't respect the country? Why would I want anybody here who doesn't respect the laws of here? Why would I want anybody here who doesn't respect the idea of here at all? If you're still using a hyphen, you don't respect the country. I'm Jamaican American. I'm Colombian American. I'm Mexican American. I'm Swedish American. Get out. You're an American. Be an American. It's kind of cool. Go be an American. That's the thing. Get rid of the hyphen. So in Massachusetts, to proactively hide illegal immigrants, keep them from deportation, that is the state of Massachusetts saying we hate the country and we hate the people of Massachusetts. They don't respect themselves. Every time you see a story like this, we released illegal immigrants accused of raping kids back into the community. I mean, this is the version of the college walk of shame. Guys never took the walk of shame, which is weird because you've seen who some of those guys were with. They should be ashamed. This is it. It's despicable how you treat yourselves and how you allow others to treat you. And there are those of us engaged in a much greater conversation. We aren't going to get treated like that. We don't get treated like that. Got a little too much respect for myself to be treated like that. Republicans, less. And that's why you now have Republicans who are like, you know what? We're not going to impeach any of these federal judges. Sure, we've got this judge who said you have to turn the planes around and you have to return the Venezuelan illegal immigrants and the gang members. You got to turn them all around. You got to bring them back. Craziest thing I ever heard. Crazy, insane, and insane crazy. Not turning any planes around. Besides, that was in the verbal order, not in the written order. So there's an argument about which one you would pay attention to. But both Speaker Johnson and the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, are stating that they're not moving towards impeachment. What they said is, this is Speaker Johnson, look, everything is on the table. Impeachment is an extraordinary measure. We're looking at all the alternatives that we have to address this problem. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, said there's an appeals process, and, you know, I suspect that's ultimately how this will get handled. I agree that these judges are acting in a way that is obscene. It's certainly not acting in a way that is good for the nation and trying to usurp the authority of the President of the United States. I wholeheartedly believe this to be true. And I was sorry to see that judges, that Republicans aren't saying, you know what? Who knows? Who knows what we're going to do? Well, we got to do something. We can't have this. Can't simply just allow these judges to think that they're in charge of everything, and somehow being elected president means you can't actually move on the military and who's in the military, on deportations and etc. This brings us to a judge by the name of Patricia Millett. Now, I don't know anything about Patricia Millett. I've never heard anything about Patricia Millett. She has got a theory. The theory is is that the Venezuelan gang deportees have been treated horrifically. That the utilization of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is ridiculous. As a matter of fact, and the quote is, Nazis got better treatment under the Alien Enemies Act than has happened here. Man, we are a weird country sometimes. Why would you say such a thing? What would make you come to that? This case, which is the Circuit Court of Appeals, this is appealing the decision from this Judge Boasberg about the Venezuelan gang members I discussed. She's saying we are in unprecedented territory. She states, as the Washington Times reports it, that when the Aliens Enemies Act has been previously used, such as after World War II, the U.S. was in a declared war. Even then, there were review boards that were tasked with determining whether targets were actual Nazis. Her argument is you're just taking people and you're sending them back. You don't care who they are. Is that what we're saying? Is that what's happening? Or is what's happening an actual move to remove the people who are of most danger to the nation? If, and I believe this is the case, if there are laws should be followed. But the idea that the president cannot engage in these deportations is nonsense. If in the, let's call it 1,000 deportations, there was a mistake, you can correct the mistake. I don't want the mistake, and I don't mind the systems to ensure there's not a mistake. The point I would make to the judge is what you are arguing for is no deportations. System after system after system after system. You're making the argument that it is because Trump is doing the deportations that it's unacceptable. But if we know the person is is part of this gang and we know they came to the country illegally, what else is there to do? What other question needs to be asked? Do I care about anything else? Again, this goes back to why don't we have any respect for ourselves? And the answer is, well, Tony, we have respect for ourselves. They don't have any respect for us. They've got no respect for themselves, no respect for us. This is the fundamental issue. It is out of control to think that these judges on this small level can interfere with the duly elected president. If the Supreme Court wants to play a hand at this, let them go. We'll then discuss it. But this judge, the Nazis were treated better? Then may I say for the record, we didn't treat the Nazis bad enough. Me personally, I would have hit him with sticks. But you know, nobody said to me, hey, Tony, you want to go find a stick? That never took place. Judge Millett is playing a very, very ugly game here. Nazis got better treatment. Well, maybe we should look at it this way, Judge. We're getting better at doing our job and getting rid of bad people, getting rid of people who want to do us harm, getting rid of people who've got horrific ideologies and bring no value to the nation. Maybe if the prior administration did a better job of keeping these people out, we wouldn't be here, which brings out a whole nother issue. What about keeping these people out? Why is there no consideration to having to do the cleanup? Well, you have to do it the right way. I think they are doing it the right way. You're here illegally. You're part of a Venezuelan gang. Bye, Felicia. You're gone. There's nothing else. I do favor Trump not listening to these judges. I do favor making this something that the Supreme Court has to address, to which John Roberts has not addressed it yet. He has to address the activism in the courts, and it has to come to an end. And as I have been somebody who has argued for less courts, Glenn Reynolds, Instapundit, law professor at University of Tennessee, argues for more. Reduce backlogs. Get things handled. And maybe more judges will mean more of your judges and less of this kind of crazy. It's a very, very interesting take. In the meantime, 77 million people voted to remove the gang member from Venezuela. And we should, no matter what this judge thinks, and we should throw in jail the people who stop us from doing it in Massachusetts and put the people in Massachusetts at risk, because not all of them voted for this garbage. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Yeah, this is better, right? Like this is better. Yeah. That's even right there. Wait, is that not even? Do I need to like that? Now it's even. Nope, that's not even. That's even? Is that even? That's even. Nope, that's not even. 9 hours later, there's Katz trying. Oh yeah, and I'm not even OCD, but you know I would 100%. I'd be doing that. Oh my God, delivery. Anybody want to go to my front door and just get the delivery? That'd be great. Thanks. Appreciate that. You just grab that. No. We've got Noah Rothman joining us in a little bit. Talk more about the war plans. War plans. We don't have to be weird, people. Megyn Kelly launched a podcast network. Mark Halperin, Maureen Callahan, Lincoln Lauren, they're all going to be there. Okay. Hope you make bank. I mean, it's, I don't know where all right. So there's two questions, and this isn't about Megyn Kelly at all. I've never met Megyn Kelly, and go knock them dead. The question is, where is the money? And the follow-up is, at what moment is there an oversaturation? Right? So even what I do in the live stream really is because I do radio. Right? And yes, it's analog and old school and all that jazz, but I understand it. I get what it is. So when is it because Megyn Kelly's a star and therefore everybody will listen to the other things because of the connection? Is this a play on how Daily Wire did it and they just lost their CEO and I have no idea what's going on over there? I don't know if it's good, bad, indifferent, what have you. It seems to me there are like 9 people who make money from the podcasts and everybody else is sucking wind and hoping for the best. But there are a lot of small groups that maybe you can reach out and build an audience in. My only point being, I don't know how much room there is for one more. I just don't know, but we'll find out. We'll see how it works. If anybody else is able to garner audience. go from there. Meanwhile, I'm glad you guys are here, and I appreciate it very, very much. Allentown, Pennsylvania. There is a woman by the name of LaTarsha Brown. And LaTarsha Brown, well, here's the whole story. We'll deal with that in a second. Did you say Noose investigation? What Noose investigation? Oh my. What did she do? LaTarsha Brown, a black woman, I'm sorry, it's important in this case, claimed that a noose was left on her desk. Look at this. I'm minding my own business. I turn around for one moment. The next thing you know, there's a noose on my desk. Who could have done such a thing? I am the victim of a hate crime. A hate crime, I say. And I'm assuming that's how she did it. I don't know what she actually sounds like, but I assume that it had some kind of regal import. And the police said, "Hey, we'd like to do an investigation, and we'd like to do some DNA testing on the rope." And she was like, okay. And then it turns out she did it to herself. Not the first time we've come across this. You see this often where progressives make it up. Jussie Smollett, anybody? They make it up. Oh, this happened. Oh, that happened. This isn't the first time we've heard the whole Noose thing. Let me explain to you what happened here. This black woman in Pennsylvania found that she wasn't being oppressed enough. And in order to be somebody who is important, you have to be oppressed because you have to be fighting something. And since nobody was oppressing her, probably nobody was even noticing her, she put the noose on her desk so everybody would pay attention to her and she could discuss what it is to be a strong black woman in society. That isn't what happened? Then what happened? And we should be clear. White people do this too. I'm waiting for the doctor to state that these are all basically subcategories of Munchausen's. Right? The one where you're like, oh, I'm always sick. Oh, I'm always sick. Oh, I got to go to a hospital. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I got to do that. Oh, you got to check on me. Oh, I got to take this probing. Oh, I need this surgery. Oh, it's Munchausen's by proxy. These people who make their children sick, which is an obscenity. I so have no ability to wrap my head around that one. I can't connect with it in any way, shape, or form. But when you are so not oppressed that you have to create a noose, remember what has to happen. First, you got to get the rope. Then you got to do whatever it is you do to make a noose. Thankfully, I don't know how to make a noose. And you got to do that to it. And then you got to plant it there. Then you have to work out the whole story. Then you got to work out the side stories. And then you have to execute the story about, oh my gosh, there's a noose on my desk. Do you know how many steps that is? And any moment throughout, you could be like, no, this is crazy. I don't have to do this. But she did it. And she's not the only person to do it. Why do people do it? They need the attention. Why do you need this? Why do you need that so badly? And why does it have to be this attention? Making a claim that the whole nation, therefore, is bigoted. And look at the racism still in America when things were so clearly not racist, you had to do it to yourself. By the way, I think it should be 900 years in prison and hard labor. And I think we should actually keep people alive to work the whole 900 years. I haven't worked that part out yet, but that's how disgusting I find this. I'm waiting for a doctor to tell me it's some level of Munchausen's. It's some condition where you just desperately need the attention. And I know what you're saying, says the guy on radio. Yes, but people buy what I'm doing and they share in it. I never had to create a noose to get attention. This is Tony Katz today. I think there's a difference. I think there's a clear difference. You tell me, Noah Rothman. Look at you. We're live streaming, by the way, Noah. We're just in the commercial break. That's Noah Rothman of National Review. He's a heck of a guy. Are those your National Review covers in the background there?
One's I replace them every so often. The other one's a commentary article, feature in the February issue. It's like a 9,000 word piece about the 25-year history of left-wing violence and the valorization and fetishization of violence.
So I'm talking about
this for there. This in this guy, which published in 2019, I have a half a chapter on these false victimization narratives and specifically racial hoaxes and the incentive structure that we have created around them. And yeah, there's too many to list. And again, that was 2019 and it had evidence from 14, 15, 16, 17 unto publication date. And we're 6 years past that. So there are many other, I could write a whole nother chapter.
But I'm not joking about the story out of Pennsylvania. I'm not joking about this idea of Munchausen's. There's some...
Yeah.
And by the way, I could be wrong about the diagnosis. The doctor could say, no, you actually mean this or that.
It's a metaphor.
Thank you. That rarely do I get
down physicians and let the let the wordsmiths work here.
How you doing, man?
I'm okay. How about you?
I am all right. I have got your piece right here from National Review that I will grab. But we've got the live stream audience here, and we'll get back to the radio in just a minute. We're adding stations; things are going pretty well. There are two things at play here. One is whether how Jeffrey Goldberg got into this conversation, and I'll say to you, as I'll discuss when we get back to the radio show, man, am I no fan of Jeffrey Goldberg going back to what he did to Kevin Williamson.
I have stories about Jeff Goldberg too, very personal stories, which I won't disclose here, but I'll let you know that I take a backseat to no one in my Jeffrey Goldberg skepticism.
But it's a messed up story. My argument is solely that one. Why is he in your phone? Like there's a real odd, strange thing there. Not that a journalist would be in your phone. Why is Jeffrey Goldberg in your phing? But put that to the side. You took it from a different angle as well. You're not saying fire this one. You're not doing anything except saying this is kind of a nutty story. You're making the argument of
nutty story. Yeah, I'm
making the argument of
ruling out, summary disciplinary action, perhaps, but falling on your sword. I don't know if this rises to the level of defenestration, but I'm not saying it does.
Just a quick 30-second thing before we get back to the radio show. You're taking a look at what actually got said, and you're reading the words of Vice President J.D. Vance, and you're like, that's worth noting. And this is about where America's interests are, correct?
Yeah, I think there are two ways to analyze this. One is on the substance of what was discussed on this tech thread, and the other is the security lapse that it unquestionably is. And we can take both of those in turns, but I think they're two separate discussions.
So with that, stay right there. We're going to come back to you. We're going to get back to the radio show. You can right now, you're not on camera. You can stretch, pick your nose, do whatever. I'm not here to judge. I'm not whatever you were doing, I did not see. We'll be back to you in 60 seconds or less. And by the way, I am all far. I smoke on air all the time. I'm ready to go. If we're doing it, I'm doing it. I got to take the label off here. So anyway, I don't know why it took me so long to get started. I like the Psycho from Asylum. I think it's a very, very good Connecticut and right price point too. Really, really nice. Go ahead there, Landon. Let's go.
Well, look, the White House came out with a statement, I think within the last hour. Somebody handed me what they said. They clarified there were no war plans discussed. There was no classified material sent on that thread. The White House counsel is looking into the matter, looking into how this other number was inadvertently added. Obviously, that was a mistake and a serious one. But I just want to say, I mean, thanks to President Trump and his strong leadership and all the everybody on that group chat, the leaders on that group chat are extraordinary people. I know them all personally. They're patriots. They're doing a great job for the country. And that was a successful mission. I mean, we're taking out Houthi terrorists. That's what the American people expect the administration to do, to restore peace through strength and to act decisively. So look, they've acknowledged that there was an error and they're correcting it. And I would have asked the same thing of the Biden administration. I don't think anyone should have lost their job over that because an errant number, found its way onto a dialogue between leaders. It's a mistake,
but it wasn't just an errant number.
Adding the reporter, or was the
Speaker Johnson, it was the number of a journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic. Why was he in anybody's phone? I keep saying that for me, this is so much of the argument. And admittedly, if this had happened under Biden, you would hear people on the political right screaming for blood, and they wouldn't be wrong. We would ask ourselves what actually took place. Were war plans discussed? Not like that. But was a group text amongst the leaders of the United States available to a journalist? Yes. Yes, they were. And it was indeed wrong, and it's an issue. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Noah Rothman joins me right now from National Review. His latest, Striking the Houthis Does Not Constitute Bailing Out Europe Again. He is also the author of Unjust and the Rise of the New Puritans, the Progressives' War on Fun, which is available at Amazon.com. And good to see you. We were talking just before we got on air that most people on the political left are discussing whether or not these people are incompetent and they're terrible and they put America at danger. That did not happen. That's a very easy thing to state. Although you don't like the idea that they allowed a journalist or anybody else who should not have been on a group conversation into the conversation. My argument has been, why in the world Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic? I don't like Jeffrey Goldberg. I don't know the man personally, but I don't like him going back to hiring and firing Kevin Williamson from National Review because a couple of staff members got their nose out of joint that he might say something that they find offensive. It's as if they had never read any Kevin Williamson in their entire lives. You went from a completely different angle, and you said, is anybody going to look at what J.D. Vance just said right here? Is anybody going to take a look at this? So before we get to your piece, let's start with the overall. This conversation on the app Signal, you've got Marco Rubio and John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, Tulsi Gabbard from Director of National Intelligence, who you and I both had an issue with in being confirmed. All of these people having this conversation. Is it so weird that they had a conversation?
Well, I'm going to say at the outset that I do not share your confidence that our intelligence has not been compromised here. I don't think we have the information to know that, and the indices that we do, the indications that we do have, are extraordinarily troubling. Signal as an app, whether it's secure or not, is not allowed on federal devices, meaning that if it is downloaded on a personal private device and you're conducting these sensitive deliberations on it, they very well could be compromised by foreign actors. Why do we know this? We know this from the Hillary Clinton scandal in 2009 when she was using a BlackBerry on a tour in Southeast Asia. We understood at the time from security experts who are not partisans that foreign actors can compromise these devices remotely and gain access to American intelligence, even if we're not talking about sensitive information like the notion that we're talking about, as Jeffrey Goldberg said, weapons platforms, the identities of active CIA personnel, target sequencing, target selection. The notion that this stuff isn't classified doesn't pass the smell test. This government overclassifies everything. To suggest that it wouldn't classify targeting information like that is just simply uncredible. And Steve Witkoff was in Moscow at the time in which he was included on this text thread. Was he using an unsecured device? Was that compromised? We don't know the answer to that one way or the other. We cannot say for sure. This is certainly a violation of records keeping laws. It is certainly a violation of security protocol where you're supposed to be in a SCIF, a secured compartmentalized information facility, and Signal is not an authorized app. All of those are lapses. The notion here that this was perfectly secure and not compromised by America's adversaries, I think the jury is certainly out on that. The second issue is what was discussed, which is also of vital importance to our enemies.
Now,
even
first,
the deliberations internally.
I'm going to interrupt you really quick.
Sure.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, and I don't mind any investigation into that. But the argument from the left is war plans, every last little bit of detail, every single thing, and that does not seem to be the partial, if not totality, of all these conversations. I will concede that we can argue that it shouldn't have happened on this app. John Ratcliffe did testify in front of that Senate committee today that it was placed onto his work computer. So there's now going to be this question. I concede those points as acceptable, but you got into what was being discussed. Go ahead.
Right, which is also, I mean, that's something that is of vital importance to the national debate, but it's equally imperative to learn that from the perspective of a foreign intelligence asset. What you would like to know is what the administration's principals are thinking. Who thinks what? Who's arguing with what? Whose positions are where? And how do we compromise those positions? How do we ingratiate ourselves into those positions? That sort of internal deliberation is of vital importance to America's allies and adversaries alike. And what was discussed are a lot of things that I think would be equally of equal importance to America's allies and adversaries. For example, you had Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth divulging the notion that Israel might act on its own to act against the Houthis before us, and that would complicate our position, which demonstrates the degree to which the United States and Israel are interacting with each other, have interoperability, and have control over each other's actions. Again, vital importance to America's adversaries and allies abroad. Likewise, but what I think you're talking about, as we discussed earlier, J.D. Vance's confusion over why it was in vital American U.S. national interests to preserve and protect free maritime navigation of the seas. And he seems pretty confused by this. He said that the Suez Canal is pretty much a European interest. It's not an American interest. Europe gets 40% of its trade. He said 40% of its trade through the canal. We get 3%. So what's in it for us? Even if we take things down to a really tangible, physical notion of, just what's in America's interests in terms of what you can hold and what money you can extract from our partners abroad, which I think is a really picayune way to talk about international affairs. But let's say that. Sure, Europe gets most of its trade through the Suez Canal. You know who trades with Europe the most? We do. Europe is our number one trading partner. They buy the most imports that we export from the United States. If Europe has less money to spend on American goods, we have less money. It's a sort of elementary conclusion that you would expect the vice president to fully apprehend. But even if you don't think of that way, the notion here that, and the administration's actions contribute to this impression that it is attempting to engineer a transatlantic schism. It wants to establish daylight between the United States and its European allies with the grand objective of extricating the United States from its alliances abroad and the obligations associated with them. And now the colorable argument there is, well, conservatives have been saying for years that Europe has to take more stewardship over its own security, and therefore it needs a better security force. Why did we want that? That's a tactic. What's the strategic objective there? The strategic objective is to have Europe be a more active proponent of and steward of our shared geopolitical interests. If we stand up a European defense force while at the same time sacrificing our influence over the trajectory of European politics, it's not good for America. Why? Because if you think Europe is constitutionally inclined toward confrontation with China, with Iran, or even Russia for that matter, you're nuts. Europe is inclined towards accommodationism, towards appeasement. That's the European inclination, specifically the Western European inclination. And if we were to stand up some sort of a European force, first of all, there's no such thing as a united Europe in the absence of the United States, a prima inter pares, guiding all these 33 member states toward one shared objective. But even if you think that there would be some sort of a unified European foreign policy, and there wouldn't be, it would be one that would not necessarily support our interests, steward our interests. It would be one that would frustrate our interests vis-a-vis China, Iran, and Russia.
Let me jump in, talking to Noah Rothman of National Review, nationalreview.com, and let me engage a defense of Vance here. In that, what if the argument is not just about what are the stakes for the United States? All right, as you write, right? We don't have the trade here, but rather a conversation about if we're going to get involved with bombing the living, out of the Houthi rebels, which I personally am not opposed to. This is me saying it.
Yeah.
we're going to have to explain ourselves to an American public that we told we're the people who are not going to be intervening. We're the people of no more forever wars. We shouldn't be involved in certain conflicts, and maybe other people should be taking a lead because it will be better for them. I don't know if that is so, if that is J.D. Vance not understanding the field, but rather J.D. Vance ascribing to a very different political philosophy than you or maybe myself.
Yeah, I think you're being far too charitable. I think J.D. Vance understands perfectly well. I do. I think J.D. Vance understands perfectly well that an Iranian-funded and armed proxy shooting at U.S.-flagged maritime, commercial, and Navy vessels should be blown out of the water. I think he gets that. I think he doesn't want that as a political argument, because his political argument is the U.S. should retrench from its obligations abroad, regardless of what happens. And I'll tell you what will happen. Aspiring hegemons in their regions, Iran and China alike, will fill the vacuum that is left by a retreating United States. The spheres of influence, inviolable spheres of influence that fell apart in the end of the Cold War will return, and there will be truncated access to these regions, truncated trade, a poorer world, a more protectionist world, a more paranoid world, and a much less peaceful world. And I think J.D. Vance believes that that is a political argument that is in service to him, and I think he knows fully well what the alternative arguments are, and he mischaracterizes them and creates straw men at every opportunity in order to demonize and anathematize his opponents, not to persuade, not to cajole, but to shut critics up with the expectation that partisanship will paper over the manifest deficiencies in an otherwise unpersuasive argument.
Noah Rothman, stay right there. Noah Rothman from National Review. We'll get to you, back to you in just a moment on the live stream. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Part of the issue, Noah, of this is that the argument made against Vance in this case is that Vance is not actually interested in long-term American strength if he can have short-term American peace, right? That seems to be an argument here, that he's not, maybe not even short-term American peace, he's not interested in a long-term American survivalism. You're also making in the same argument that Europe doesn't survive without the United States. And I think that for the Vance folk, the question is, well, these people don't want to survive, Noah. What do you want me to do about it? Which is, as a question, a legitimate one, isn't it?
I hesitate to lend it much more credence than it's due. But I understand the objection insofar as I said in the previous segment, this is a longstanding conservative objection to the notion that America's defense commitments, post-war defense commitments to Europe, underwrite a rather lavish welfare state. That has been the conservative complaint long before Donald Trump was even interested in Republican politics. And it's not one that I think is irrelevant to our discussion today. But the objective, that is a tactic, standing up a European defense force. The strategic objective with that we're supposed to achieve is to have a Europe free, whole, at peace, and fundamentally allied with the United States as an executor of our shared interests, which are mostly what we dictate. That's what we want. We want a Europe that is aligned with our interests in ways, and fundamental ways. I mean, you can depart at the margins, but on the big grand strategic pictures, we're on the same page. And by the way, you're out there securing our wins for us too. That's the goal. That's not what we're doing here. What we're going about doing is creating political classes that depart from, indeed responsive to their respective constituencies, must be hostile to the aggressive behavior of the Trump administration, the effort to goad, to provoke, to mock for example, our allies in Canada. It's something that I wrote for the Telegraph the other day, that this administration doesn't seem to understand that other countries have politics too. This administration is really very sensitive to intangible concepts like respect, and prestige.
That
But they
may be
mock and chide anyone who suggests that other countries might value these intangibles too, and might be compelled to act in defense of these intangibles in ways that are contrary to their material interests.
You cannot make the argument that Europe has the same values as we do if you're saying, your words, not mine, that they are prone to appeasement, not to standing up.
No. Because
to Russian Chinese threat.
you're confusing values with elementary human nature. Human nature is such, and that the Chinese don't have our values. They care about respect and prestige too. The Iranians don't have our values. They care about respect and prestige too. And they will act in defense of those intangible assets when they are threatened. They're commodities that are valued by every human being on the planet, irrespective of your moral framework.
If the Europeans don't have a sense of self-preservation, I believe that what Vance is arguing, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying I'm trying to understand where Vance is.
What if their sense of self-preservation means that they have to make accommodations with Beijing, commercial and military accommodations? That's self-preservation.
Is it? Because I would argue just the opposite, that making that accommodation cannot bring you any long-term success.
Well, but that was the argument that we had to make to Europe over the course of the Cold War, because there were accommodationist elements in Western Europe during the Cold War too. This is why didn't France remove itself from NATO?
And that,
because it was the United States that was putting it at risk. We can have our independent foreign policy and have a middle way.
You're making an argument that I believe leads Vance to this place. We did this, we did that, we made a deal here, it had to change over here. We did this, it changed over there. Let's end it all. I think that's the Vance way and the Trump way, and a lot of people who support them. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think that's what it is. But I thought the piece was fascinating. I always appreciate
I just think it's a little worse than that, because it's not just Chesterton Fence. He didn't just come across this alliance structure and say, well, I don't know why this is here, let's tear it down. He knows precisely why it's there. He's a very smart man. He's a very well-educated man. He knows precisely what he's tearing down.
I got to get back to a radio show. You're a gent. That's Noah Rothman right there. National Review. Go live your life. We'll talk soon. There he is. Fine, upstanding young man. A little loud? Is that what you just said? Oh, what a lad. Oh, and I'm with you guys. He's a very, like he is not of the Vance set at all, which I think makes him interesting because he can handle the pushback. And that's why I like him on the show. You need guys like him. You need guys like Schlichter. You need guys like Cliff May. You need to bring it all in for sure. Absolutely. Interesting. Back to the show. So in Colorado, they took down a portrait of President Trump. Well, kind of they were ordered to take down a portrait of President Trump because according to the president, it distorts him. And I'm telling you right now, how anybody could think that this is okay, that doesn't look like him. I mean, it kind of looks like him. The face is longer. He's got the jowls. There's a fullness to his face. And he's like, that doesn't look like me. I looked at my mugshot. I'm way hotter than that. And so what has happened? He went after the people of Colorado, the state capitol. Nobody likes a bad picture or painting of themselves, but the one in Colorado in the state capitol put up by the governor, along with all other presidents, was purposely distorted to a level that even I, perhaps, have never seen before. He's paying attention to everything. How he is viewed matters greatly, and I would argue he's not wrong. He is not wrong. It's pretty funny. The question is, if you're Colorado, you know that doesn't look like him, right? You know that's not representative. In the chat room here, it looks more like Alec Baldwin as Trump. Correct. It does. It looks like a caricature. So what are you doing? You know that's not right. Why would you do it? This is, I'm going to get more into this coming up. And I've got much more to say on the subject in the days ahead. People who are broken do weird things. I was telling you the story yesterday about this took place in Brownsburg, Indiana, not too far from me, where this Amazon delivery driver, and we've got the story up at TonyKatz.com. This Amazon delivery driver is dropping off a package, taking a picture to prove that it was there. And next to them in the neighbor's yard or in the person's yard is a "We Stand with Israel" sign. They picked it up. They threw it on the ground. We've got the video and we've got it posted. I'd love to see that get a lot more viral. The question is, what are you doing? Why? What did you win by doing it? Who did you help? Whose life is better? And the answer is no one's. Nowhere is anybody's life better. So why do you do it? Why would you make the painting of Trump that doesn't look like Trump? Like, I think that's a very smart comment. It looks like Alec Baldwin doing Trump. Can't you just be normal and make it about the policy? And the answer is nope. These childish, pathetic, can't control your emotions tactics. Can't win elections that way. Can't win American people over that way. You can cause violence that way, but, well, one thing at a time, shall we? This is Tony Katz Today. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Guys, all right. So can someone explain to me what's going on here? And Sarah, if you want to jump in the chat, I want to discuss this. Someone's got to explain something to me because I'll make changes. Here's what's going on. We start this show at noon, right? The radio show is going to start no matter what. So we start the live stream at noon. When we get to, so Eastern time, when we get to the 1 o'clock hour, the people watching, it jumps. Bloop. The jump is palpable in the amount of viewership. So one of the things I can tell you on the radio side is that this time slot is crazy, crazy crowded, right? This is the Rush Limbaugh time slot. This is the Prestige slot. So, I mean, it's Clay and Buck, and it was Bongino, and now Vince Colonnese, very, very nice guy. It's Mark Lee Van Camp and Robbins. It's Dana Lash. It's Eric Erickson. I'm missing people. I know I'm missing people. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Anyway, there's a lot of people. So, like, there's a lot of options. So what is happening that at like 1 o'clock, whoop, through the roof, Penny is saying, Tony, it's much simpler than that. Lunch is over at 1. You may be right about that. Lunch is over at 1, so more people are available. So does that mean I should continue the live stream? Because right now I got to go. Should I continue it? Because I can do that. But I think it would be just a live stream only. No, I could do it with the radio show too. I can't today. I cannot today continue with the live stream. We can do that. We can totally do that. I'm fascinated by it. And all right, on the business side, right? You want to capture as much audience as you can and get people into it and everything else. I'll discuss these things out in the open. I don't lie about anything. I don't have any parody songs, Dark Rogue. I need more parody songs. What am I, the Grease Man out of DC? I don't have any parody songs. This is it. Me, the microphone, and the unbalanced backdrop. That's the whole thing. And my cigar. Like, this is what I got. This is what I do. All right. We're going to have to figure this out. Because now what? Because I do have to go. That stinks. Okay. All right. I will figure this out. I will figure this out. I will figure this out. I am here. Yes, I will. Most definitely. Guys, you're appreciated. I can't thank you enough for being here. I promise. Am I going to stream till 3? Maybe. 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 All right. All right. Look, the numbers are proving it. The math is proving the thing. So, okay. I will endeavor. Is that the word I'm looking for? Strive, endeavor, to bring the show to 3. And by the way, Sarah, you know that's the fundamental issue. You know that's it. That is the whole thing right there. Look at you guys, proud of your peer pressure. You don't care about my time. You don't. Yeah, honestly, I'm thrilled that you're here. I really am. Okay. All right. So starting tomorrow, I guess. Well, it won't be every day. It'll be most days. We'll go longer. We'll start streaming longer. Okay. I will do this. But for now, I got to go. You are very, very much appreciated. Don't forget, Trump and American Reset in 3 bourbons. Tickets.tonykatz.com. The barbecue, the cigars, the bourbon flight, and taking a look back at Trump's first 100 days and the insanity of the media reaction. I mean, these people are just, they're out of their heads. Ridiculous. Tickets.tonykatz.com. You can get your tickets right now if you haven't already. Tickets.tonykatz.com. My sponsors, LaserPMC.com, Laser Precision Marksmanship Club, with the laser training and the live events they can set up, and you're working with videos and you're learning how to shoot better. Fantastic. And franchises available if you want to open one in your city, laserpmc.com, and the good people at Flederman Von Riest. These are the watch folk, and I am their brand ambassador, which I'm thrilled to be able to share their story. Assembled right here in Indiana. That's the Hanoverian in Cornflower Blue. Beautiful, beautiful pieces, and more are coming, including some that I've had a little hand in there. Von Riest, RIESTE, vonriest.com, and use promo code KATZ, KATZ, and you will get what's the word I'm looking for? A discount. That's the word I was looking for. There's more radio to do, so I gotta go do radio. I gotta drop from this. I have to, trust me. I have to. Don't ask, but I'll fix this. I will fix this. So tomorrow we'll go longer. Tomorrow we stream longer, and then someone's gonna say, because I said stream longer, someone's gonna say I did the Nazi salute. Oh, it's gonna be a mess. And then my rabbi's gonna call. You know how that's gonna be. Guys, you're appreciated, truly, and I will catch you tomorrow. Take care.